An agreement on the national minimum wage has been struck between parties at the National Economic Development and Labour Council, NEDLAC, and the parties have agreed on a 20 rands per hour to take effect from May 2018. They also agreed on establishing a national minimum wage commission to review the minimum wage every year. Reports suggest that the agreement will see a signing ceremony held in Cape Town on Tuesday with President Jacob Zuma. The president is also set to announce the national minimum wage during his State of the Nation address on Thursday. Meanwhile, Workers' Federation Cosatu says the minimum wage of 20 rands per hour will not make a dent in the lives of the poor. Well, the director of Free Market Foundation, Jason Urbach, joins us on the line. A very good morning to you, Jason. Thank you so much for joining us. Are you happy with this agreement of 20 rands per hour?
I think that presumably the parties at NEDLAC and the proponents of the national minimum wage have their hearts in the right place. And I think we can all agree that we all want to live in a society where there is full employment and people are prospering, not only because of the economic benefits, but also, and perhaps more importantly, for the psychological benefits of knowing that you're making a meaningful contribution to your community and society. However, I think that the national minimum wage is a misguided attempt to address the underlying structural problems that are pervasive throughout our economy. And I think it may in fact have the opposite effect of what is intended, and that's namely to address South Africa's high rates of poverty and inequality. And the reason I say that is because one of the surest ways to prevent unskilled people with little or no work experience from ever entering the job market is to make it illegal for employers to hire them. And I think the single biggest problem facing the South African economy is the persistent and chronic unemployment problem. And this problem is getting worse because if you look back in time, if you look back, for example, at the Great Recession we had in 2009, there were about 4.4 million unemployed people. And then last year this had increased to about 5.5 million, and since then another 455,000 people have lost their jobs. And that's all according to the strict definition. Kind of a much more realistic representation of what's actually happening on the ground is what the people at Stats SA refer to as the expanded definition of unemployment. And if we look at that, we see that there are over 9 million unemployed people in South Africa. And that means that there are almost as many unemployed people in South Africa as what there are employed in the formal sector in South Africa. So this situation that we have in South Africa is not unique. There's no other is unique, rather. There's no other place in the world where we have such a persistent unemployment problem. And if we look kind of more specifically at it, we see that 2/3 of the unemployed have been unemployed for longer than a year, and over 2/3 of the unemployed are between the ages of 15 and 24 years of age. So we can see that there's currently a desperate struggle for young, unskilled people to get onto the first rung of the so-called economic ladder. And now along comes NEDLAC, which is comprised of big business, big unions, and they say we're going to introduce a minimum wage of 3,500 rand per month, and that just cuts off a few more rungs of that ladder. Now, in the absence of minimum wage law, the unskilled and inexperienced would ordinarily find jobs.
Well, Jason, sorry to interject there. We actually are out of time, but thank you so much for your contribution and for your analysis. That was the director of Free Market Foundation, Jason Urbach, joining us on the phone line, just giving us his views on the national minimum wage. We're joined right now by Cosatu spokesperson Sizwe Pamla on the line. A very good morning to you, Sizwe. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, what are your thoughts on this 20 rands per hour? As Cosatu, you don't seem very happy with it.
Well, we are not happy with the 20 rand an hour minimum wage, but we have to make it clear. We do have welcome the fact that now we are going to have a minimum wage in this country. It's something that Cosatu has been pushing for quite some time. We just don't believe that the 20 rand is the figure that will actually make a difference. Because at the end of the day, we were looking for a minimum wage that will really make an impact and change people's lives. The fact of the matter is that the economy itself actually does need a minimum wage, because currently we have an economy that produces goods, but that cannot be bought by the South African workforce. The majority of South Africans who actually earn an income, they still depend on government for their basic necessities. I mean, you have people who work and who still look at government to provide RDP houses. So The minimum wage was also going to help to actually take some of the burden from government, because when we have a strata of the working poor, people who earn an income but who cannot really afford because they spend 40% of their money on public transport system, then we are in trouble as an economy and as a country. So this minimum wage is something we do welcome. We have campaigned long and hard for this minimum wage to be in place, but we are just disappointed that it falls short of the 4.5 figure that we would have hoped for as Federation.
Now, Sizwe, what about the National Minimum Wage Commission that is to be established? Are you happy about that? Perhaps the figure that's now been reached can be reviewed on an annual basis.
Indeed, we are happy with the establishment of a National Minimum Wage Commission, because we do believe that the minimum wage, as we have previously said as Cosatu, it is just the first step in really working towards a national living wage. So for us, this is an ongoing process. So that commission will be able to help adjust and ensure that the minimum wage keeps pace with inflation, and also that it really helps those who are at the bottom end of the social strata, because currently, like we are saying, we have 47% of people who earn less than 2,000 rand. We have 60% who earn less than 5.5. So no economy can function if you have got people who actually go to work every day but who cannot afford to buy anything. So we hope that this commission will really do its work and will make sure that as and when we go forward, we put the building blocks towards a national living wage.
Well, thank you so much for your time. That was Cosatu spokesperson Sizwe Pamla on the phone line there, expressing that they are happy that there is a minimum wage, but not quite happy with the amount that was agreed upon.